How's it going, everyone? Data here with an off-the-cuff DataCast with breaking news in the NHL today, with the Montreal Canadiens having fired their head coach, Dominique Ducharme, just about half a season into season 1 of 3 as the official head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. He had 83 regular season games to show himself. The Canadiens had a record of 23, 46, and 14, barely winning just a quarter of their games under Dominique Ducharme, and he has been relieved of his duties, getting paid another $1.7 million for the next couple of years as well. So in today's DataCast, going to be talking a little bit about, was it the right time to fire Dominique Ducharme, and what do we think about Marty St being hired as his replacement, as the interim head coach for the rest of the season, and most likely moving into next season as well, if all continues to go well. So first things first, let's touch upon Dominique Ducharme getting fired from the Montreal Canadiens. Now, there's a ton of blame going on Dominique Ducharme right now. The blame that was on Marc Bergevin is now coming towards him because Bergevin is gone. Ducharme is now gone. I'm interested to see where the blame is going to go now. I think public enemy number one seems to be Jeff Petrie, who has, he's been having a tough time. I'll talk about that as well moving forward. But was Ducharme as bad as the numbers maybe make it sound? And unfortunately, I don't like to blame the coach because there's often so many more things that go into it. And there are, Price is out, Edmondson's out, Weber's gone, Danault is gone. There's so many different things going into it right now. But here's a good tweet here from Marco D'Amico. He says, a lot of people have given Ducharme leeway over the last year due to schedule, injuries, poor GM, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, his roster decisions are poor and his strategy is predictable. This roster should not be this bad, and a healthy Price won't save this either. And that's a good point right there. There have been bad teams with decent coaches who have found a way to be bad but still have some redeeming factors and redeeming qualities. I don't know if any of you saw the game against the Devils in that 7-1 loss, but it was just atrocious out there. And one of the worst, if not the worst, Canadians on the ice was Jeff Petrie. And Petrie, he's been vocal about this before. Looking at a quote here from Arpon Batsu, he says, quoting from Jeff Petrie, talking about the Canadian system back in December, it's the same things over and over. We're not playing as a team. We're not playing as a group. And it's like you're searching to find where people are. It seems like there's no structure out there. You watch it up top, and there's times where you're scratching your head. It feels like everybody knows where we should be, but we're not going to those places. We're not making it easy for anybody on the ice, except most of the time the other team. So is that talking about just Dominique Ducharme exclusively? Is it just telling his teammates that I want you to wake up a little bit? I think it's both. And if you've seen, it's been interesting if you watch the Canadiens practices as well, it sometimes looks, I don't want to read too much into it, but it looks as if sometimes the players are doing more than Ducharme himself, and they're kind of telling him stuff. I don't know if that was more towards the beginning of the season, or if it's just his coaching style, but just to say it hasn't been the typical reign for Dominique Ducharme. And it's not like he got thrust into this position and it was just, total surprise. He had a fantastic resume in the QMJHL, 2 years as an assistant coach and then 7 years as a head coach. In those 7 years, only missed the playoffs once, had a first-round exit once, a second-round exit twice, a third-round exit twice, and one finals championship, including one of the greatest junior teams of all time, the 2012-13 Halifax Mooseheads, who went 58-6-4 with Nate McKinnon, Jonathan Drouin, and company. 2.5 years as an assistant coach, but then again, in the NHL as a head coach. I don't know how much credit you can give to him for the finals run. When Luke Richardson took over, when he had contracted COVID-19, the Canadiens did just as well, if not better, with Luke Richardson. So to give an interim head coach with almost no experience a 3-year contract after only going 15, 16, and 7, and I don't know if I like that move. And I've been a big supporter of Bergevin in most of what he's done, but I gotta say I disagree with that choice, and that's not because I'm looking back on it with hindsight. It's at the moment as well. I was vocal in that moment saying I'm not sure if I like this. I was really one who was supporting Joël Bouchard being promoted to Canadiens head coach, and because some sort of fallout happened there, now he's the coach of the San Diego Gulls, the farm team of the Anaheim Ducks. So Dominique Ducharme went 23, 46, and 14 over 83 games. minus that last game, that last loss, imagine an 82 game schedule that he coached. That would be a record of 23, 45, and 14. Barely winning like 27.7, well, winning 27.7%, which is barely just over a quarter of games. So 3 out of 4 games are a loss over the course of a season. And that's where things came in here now, because Jeff Gordon, when he took over the Canadiens, he said that Ducharme was going to remain coach for the rest of the season. He wasn't going to be touching that. But after that really embarrassing 7-1 loss, the first one to say it was Tony Marinaro, TSN 690. I was listening on the radio and even tweeted it. I always thought Dom Ducharme would finish the season. I do not think that anymore. Last night was the Habs' worst loss of the season for many reasons. He's in trouble. I wish him well. We all do. But I won't be surprised if something happens in the next 24 hours. That is exactly what happened. So what I'm trying to say is, well, moving back to yesterday, actually, I get Jeff Petrie is kind of like the one that everyone's saying trade, trade, trade. But, taking into consideration, he lost Shea Weber, he lost his buddy Shea, he lost his buddy Carey, he lost his defensive partner Joel Edmondson. He is on a terrible team. He did not sign up for a rebuild. He has 3 more years at 6.25. I don't know what else is going on in his head. His wife is also not really the number one. I don't know how to call it, just not in good graces with a lot of Quebec media and Quebec fans, most notably Francophone fans and media, as she has been vocal against how she feels that she's been treated as an Anglophone in Quebec, which I can appreciate as well. But just to say, I don't think his motivations are really at 100% right now, and for understandable reasons. So is it Dom Ducharme's fault that Jeff Petrie's feeling like that? No, it's not. But to have the line choices that have been made, to have guys like Dauphin playing over guys like Paling in moments, to be burning the confidence of Caden Primo when, just get anybody to play right now for future considerations. There has to be a team with a third or a fourth goalie that they just want to dump, someone in free agency they can sign Kevin Poulin, who they had who was playing in the Trois-Rivières Lions in the ECHL or what, who played in the preseason. Get anyone right now to just play between the pipes and not burn out your prospects. That's why, I think I'm looking forward to how Martin St. Louis is going to be treating Cole Caulfield. But if things were to continue with Dom Ducharme, I would have really wanted Caulfield to be in Laval in the AHL. But moving on from this, because there is a lot that could be said about Dom Ducharme, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. If the Canadiens, it was a difficult moment. If they're just losing, then it's definitely okay to keep Ducharme till the end of the season. You got to make a change in the offseason. You can't go into next season like that. But right now, we want to lose. We want to not necessarily do super well. And if there's no better coach on the market, we don't need to force a move right now. So this firing did not necessarily come out of left field. I would have thought Luke Richardson takes over interim basis for the rest of the year. But the hiring of Martin St. Louis comes completely out of left field. Not because he's not a good candidate, possibly, but just because no one even thought he was on the radar. Coaching U13 AAA midgets, he comes with no coaching experience, yet he is one of the better players in the NHL of the last, I guess maybe 20 years or so. Just pulling up his page as well, you look at his career totals: 1,033 points in 1,134 games. A lot of awards to go with it. He won the Art Ross in 2012-13, one of his last seasons of his career. 60 points in the shortened 48-game season. 90 points in 107 playoff games, a Stanley Cup to boot, and more you could say about him. There's nothing bad to say about Martin St. Louis. He's amazing, and analytically, statistically, it's one of the better players, like I said, of the last 20 years. A good tweet here from Evolving Wild. Martin St. Louis is 39th in career goals above replacement. If you don't know what goals above replacement are, it is a metric that attempts to assign a total value to each player, which represents how much that player contributed to their team in a single number. You can read more about that if you want to look it up, but just to say he's 39th in career goals above replacement among all players since 2007, and his last season was with the Rangers in 14-15. He's easily later corrected as one of the best. He is easily one of the best players to become a head coach, possibly any type of coach, in years, probably decades. So, you think it's interesting. You think it didn't really work out with Wayne Gretzky, but it really worked out with Rod Brind'Amour. And then you have other great examples in the sports world. You have Steve Nash, who became the coach of the Brooklyn Nets with no experience. You have, in European football, you have Steven Gerrard, you have Frank Lampard, you have Andrea Pirlo. It didn't really work out for him, but you do have a lot of others that did. Pep Guardiola, Zinedine Zidane. You have so many that it did work out. Different sports, obviously, but just to say, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a coach come in with no experience. It's not necessarily the coaching experience with what gets result. As Darren Dreger says here, it might be a surprise to most, but not to those who know him well or played with him. Montreal needed change, and St. Louis is an excellent communicator, fully engaged in analytics, and a qualified teacher. On a short-term trial, this is a risk worth taking. There is no loss here. It's a win-win. Either you got Ducharme out and you tried something new and you just mixed things up for the players who were feeling bland, or you found a gem, a diamond in the rough, and you have your new head coach who becomes like a Rod Brind'Amour. And there's a connection there. Martin St. Louis, he's connected with Kent Hughes. This is a tweet here coming from Patrick Harrock, saying a friend of his, now not the greatest source in the world, but I'm just saying it in general, and whether this be yesterday or not, here's St. Louis sitting with Kent Hughes watching their kids play together at Northeastern. So, there's a connection there with Kent Hughes. And then furthermore, you have the connection with Vincent Lecavalier, as Marc-Olivier Baudouin says that he's hearing Lecavalier will be named assistant to the GM, Kent Hughes, as soon as tomorrow. So it's very interesting. Next year, you're going to have Brad Richards be the head scout, right? And Freddie Modine and Nikolai Habibulin and the 2004 Stanley Cup champion teams is going to come back together. But what I'm trying to get at is Kent Hughes knows people, and he knows who the good hockey people are. Jeff Gorton does as well. So to hire Martin St. Louis is not just you have a good hockey resume, let's do it. He is passionate, he is intense, he is going to be someone who demands everything from his players. I was listening to all kinds of radio on Martin St. Louis. It's been nonstop in TSN 690 Montreal for sure. So I'm for one, I'm very excited about this. I think that Martin St. Louis is a perfect candidate for the Montreal Canadiens. It's not something forced. It's someone who is bilingual. It's someone who knows the game. It's someone who is current, and it's someone who is passionate and is going to get a lot out of his players. So these moves are huge for the organization. The Canadiens have been trying to get Vincent Lecavalier to come to the organization since 2009. What was the trade offer? Like Pacioretty, Subban, Price, and a first-round pick. I remember being at the All-Star game in 2009. People were wearing Lecavalier Canadiens jerseys with a question mark as the number. That's how sure they were or how much they wanted him to come. So now you have Lecavalier in the organization. You have Martin St. Louis in the organization. Imagine them raising a cup as Montreal Canadian members in future years. I think St. Catharines would explode, and every casual spa would have chicken wings coming out of their door. But just to say, this is huge for the organization. It infuses a bit of life into it. Now, the only downside perhaps is, do we want to start winning games? I don't think so. I really want to continue this tank. We might not get Shane Wright, the Montreal Canadiens. But, you still Logan Cooley. There's still a lot of other good prospects in that top 3, top 5. And I'd like to get one of them. Are the Canadiens going to go on such a run that they get above the bottom 5? I really don't think so, even if everything goes right. But just to say, if we can continue to lose in not such a shameful and disgraceful manner and continue to develop Caulfield, develop Paling, Romanov, and Primo and everybody else, then no problem. Losing is part of the process. Trust the process, no problem. But to lose in the shameful ways that we were, with no effort, with no passion, with really just going through the motions most of the part. I'm not going to speak for the entire team, but just the way it looked. For someone who's watched as many Canadiens games as I have, at least you can tell there's a big difference in there. And I'm not saying from the Cup Finals to now when they were fighting for Weber with lightning in a bottle. I'm talking from even like 30 games ago to now. There's been a big shift, and they phoned it in. To have this rejuvenation with Martin St. Louis to come in the room and wake people up, I think that is going to be huge. So I'm going to stop there. Just my quick thoughts on Dominique Ducharme going out. Unfortunately, had to happen. earlier than I thought it would be, but definitely precipitated by that 7-1 loss to the Devils on last night, February the 8th. So looking forward to have Marty St in the lineup, behind the bench that is, and the media is going wild, that's for sure. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts, very curious to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment here on the YouTube down below. Was it the right choice to move out Ducharme? Was it too early? Was it the right time? And what do you think about Marty St coming in? Down here on YouTube or over on the Discord server, link in the description. We can talk some more there. If you are new to the channel and you enjoyed this one, leave a like. Not too often we do a DataCast here, but I'm getting into them a bit more, mostly NHL franchise mode, FIFA career mode, and more. So take a minute, check out the channel, and if you enjoy it, be sure to subscribe. We'd love to have you join the team. I'll leave you there. Looking forward to the future of the Montreal Canadiens for the rest of this season. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and I will see you in the next one.